Hello and welcome everyone to the first video of 2025. Today we are in the beautiful city of Sydney, and for this first part I'll be showing you some lovely coastal parts throughout. Before we get right started, I want to give a back history. So about I think 5 years ago, I actually filmed here with Pt.1 and we got to show the Darling Harbour, the bridge behind us, and it actually even gave an opera house tour. If you want to check those videos out, I'll leave them in the description. So when we go through here, a lot's changed since I've done that recording, and therefore there's going to be a lot more interesting, new, exciting things that I'm going to be able to take you throughout for today. Without further ado, let's get right into the journey.
Central Station is heritage listed railway. The station is Australia's largest and busiest station. Its major transport interchange for New South Wales Trainlink intercity rail services, Sydney Trains commuter rail services, Sydney Metro, light rail, bus and private coach transport. The station is also known as Sydney Terminal Platforms 1 to 12. Property was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register on April 2nd, 1999. It's recorded 85.4 million passengers movements in 2018. And serves over 250,000 people daily. Opened in 5th of August 1906, as well electrified in June 1926, the station is covered in incredible sandstone bricks and such amazing old style signs around. It truly is the hub place to go just about any place you're wanting to go. More info in description. Circular Quay is a harbour constructed in 1837 and completed in 1844. It's a former working port and now international passenger shipping terminal, public plaza and tourism precinct, heritage area and transport node on the northern edge of Sydney's central business district, along Sydney Cove between Bennelong Point and the Rocks. It's part of the local government area. Very popular neighbourhood for tourism and consists of walkways, pedestrian malls, parks and restaurants. It hosts a number of ferry wharves, bus stops and railway station. Often referred to as Gateway of Sydney, the precinct has views of Harbour Bridge and Opera House, as well a common location for New Year's fireworks. The Aboriginal name for Circular Quay is Warang, meaning little child. First people to occupy area were Aboriginal Australians. Radiocarbon dating suggests that they lived in and around Sydney for at least 30,000 years. The cove on which Circular Quay is located was the site of initial landing of the First Fleet in Port Jackson on 26th of January 1788. first wharf on shore of Cove probably dated from around 1792. In 1802, it was replaced with the timber-framed wharf called Hospital Wharf. The first public wharf of the colony, later named King's and Queen's Wharf. By reconstructing the southern section of Sydney's Cove with an artificial shoreline, the mouth of tank steams, which flowed into Cove at western end of Quay, which filled harbour originally known as Semi-Circular Quay. This being the actual shape of the quay, it was shortened for convenience. Wharves were built on the southern shore, reflecting Circular Quay's status as the central harbour for Sydney's custom homes was built on southern shore in 1844 to 1845, to which during the construction eastern side of Cove was used as a quarry and housed construction works. From 1936, the appearance of Quay was dramatically changed with the construction of the railway viaduct and later the elevated Cahill Expressway. The Opera House was constructed on 1st of March 1959 and completed in 1973. Cost of project was $102 million to an equivalent to $1,082 million in 2022. It's 65 metres and 213 feet in height. Opera House is a multi-venue performing arts centre. It's widely regarded as some of the world's most famous and distinctive buildings and a masterpiece of the 20th century architecture. Designed by Danish architect John Utzon and completed by an Australian architectural team headed by Peter Hall, the building was formally opened by Queen Elizabeth II on 20th of October 1973. 16 years after Utzon's 1957 selection as winner of an international design competition. The Government of New South Wales, led by the Premier Joseph Cahill, authorised work to begin in 1958 with Utzon directing construction. The government decision to build Utzon's design is often overshadowed by circumstances that followed, including cost and scheduling overruns, as well as the architecture's ultimate re-signation. The building comprises multiple performances venues in which together host well over 1,500 performances annually, attended by more than 1.2 million people. Performances are presented by numerous performing artists, which many residents companies such as Opera Australia, Sydney Theatre Company and Sydney Symphony Orchestra. One of the most popular visitors attractions in Australia, the site is visited by more than 8 million people annually and approx 350,000 visitors take a guided tour of the building each year. I'd like to add that I have been inside the Opera House. My experience booking tour was fascinating. The tour guide was incredible. They shared knowledge to everyone about the back history of what type the shows go on, as well walk in different parts. very well detailed journey to walk along and see the workers did to the Opera House. I'll leave further details of booking your own tour in description. The Rocks is a suburb, tourist precinct and historic area of Sydney's city centre. It's on the southern shore of Sydney Harbour, immediately northwest of the Sydney's CBD. The former boundaries of the suburb named the Rocks cover the western side of Cove east of Harbour Bridge approaches. In the north it extends to the southern base of the Harbour Bridge. In east shoreline of Circularquay and George Street. In the south to Jamieson Street, thus including the area known as Churchill, and in west to southern approaches of the Harbour Bridge and Western Distributor Overpass. The Rocks was established shortly after the colony's formation in 1788. It's known as Talawalada by the Cordigal people. Original buildings were first traditional vernacular houses of wattle and duab with thatched roofs, and later of local sandstone, from which the area derives its name from the earliest history of settlement. The area had a reputation as a slum and arriving convicts side of town, often frequented by visiting sailors and prostitutes. After November 1790, many of the inhabitants were also Aboriginal. In 1823, the district had a population of about 1,200. During the late 19th century, the area was dominated by a gang known as the Rocks Push. By the early 20th century, many of the area historic buildings were in serious decay. The state government resumed areas around the Rocks and Darling Harbour with the intention of demolishing them and rebuilding them. More than 3,800 homes, buildings and wharves were inspected and hundreds demolished. The continuation of these plans were brought to a halt due to the outbreak of World War I. During the 1920s, several hundred buildings were demolished during the construction of the Harbour Bridge. Today, the Rocks is a partly gentrified area, still contains a significant proportion of Housing Commission properties, and there is still a significant problem of the urban poverty and street crime in this district. As housing stock becomes dilapidated, government policy units to private owners in the expectation that they will restore the properties. Overall, the Rocks continue to be an important part of Sydney's cultural landscape, offering a fascinating glimpse into the city's rich history and vibrant contemporary scene. Millers Point is an inner city suburb of Sydney. It's on the northwestern edge of Sydney Central Business District, adjacent to the Rocks, and is part of the local government area of the city. Millers Point lies on the southern shore beside Darling Harbour. It historically includes what are now known as the suburbs of Dawes Point, Barangaroo, and renaming of parts of Millers Point is controversial. On June 30th, 1814, Thomas Miller, a sergeant in the 73rd Regiment of Foot, received a grant of land from the governor. A small mill that was owned by an ex-convict, Jack Langton, was located here. Area then became known as Jack the Miller's Point. In 1833, Governor Burke granted the Catholic Church land at Millers Point for the construction of a schoolhouse that could serve as a chapel on Sundays. The colonial architect Ambrose Halen, in consultation with Bishop Allathorne, designed the school building, which was completed by May 1835. The current observatory building on Observatory Hill was completed in 1858 by English astronomer and clergyman William Scott. Also on Hill is the old Fort Street School, converted from an old military hospital at Fort Phillip in the 1850s. Its building has housed the National Trust of Australia. The primary school remains nearby in a separated heritage-listed building. Barangaroo is an area of central Sydney. The area was used for fishing and hunting by Indigenous Australians prior to colonial settlement. The area is inclusive of the Hungry Mile, which named harbourside workers gave to Dockland area of Darling Harbour east during the Great Depression, where workers would walk from wharf to wharf in search of a job, often failing to find one. Redevelopment commenced in 2012 and was expected to be certainly completed by 2023, which involves parkland with several new apartment buildings as a metro station, hotel cultural place, and casino. Following a public competition in 2006, the East Darling Harbour area was renamed in October 2007 in honour of Barangaroo, a Camaragal woman who was the second wife of Benny Long, an interlocutor between the Aboriginal people and the early British colonists in New South Wales. She did not, however, agree with the Benny Long working with the colonial government. Barangaroo South is the southern third of the site and acts as an extension of Sydney's CBD with office buildings, apartments, retail outlets, public spaces, and a hotel known as The Crown. According to 2016 census, there were 189 people in Barangaroo. It was Sydney's most expensive area, with average apartments costing $10 million. At the 2021 census, the population had grown to 220. Ferry Wharf replaced Darling Harbour Ferry Wharf in June 2017. The complex serves as the city centre's western ferry hub and consists of 2 wharves, with provision for a 3rd wharf in the future. Pyrmont is inner city suburb of Sydney. It's also part of Darling Harbour. Aboriginal culture before European settlement, the Ora tribe of Indigenous Australians inhabited the area. The name was Pirrama, which is still the name of a road on Pyrmont waterfront. It was once a vital component of Sydney's industrial waterfront, with wharves, shipbuilding yards, factories and wool stores. As industries moved out, the population and area declined. In recent years, it has experienced redevelopment with an influx of residents and office workers. Pyrmont was the site of quarries from a fairly early stage because of the quality of the sandstone. Charles Saunders, licensee of the Quarry's Man's Arm Hotel, became the biggest quarrymaster with 3 quarries established in area from 1853. The work was continued by his son and grandson till 1931. The Star Casino dominates the Darling Harbour waterfront of Pyrmont, and the Sydney Fish Market is located on Blackwattle Bay. Jackson Landing is a residential and commercial property development located on the northern part of the peninsula. It's also home to headquarters of several corporations, including Vodafone, Akinta Australia, Network 10, Google, and radio stations like Nova 96.9, Smooth 95.3, and 2SM. Pyrmont is the former home to 7 West Media, which moved to Australian Technology Park at Eve Length in 2017, and 2GB moved to North Sydney in 2020.
Finally made it to the very last section of today's part of the coastal section, showing off the city of Sydney. And I just want to thank everyone for watching today's video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. I really enjoyed being able to adventure along and see different parts throughout today. Also, in a little fact, the place that we're at is actually where I celebrated New Year's Eve almost a decade ago with a few of my friends. So it's quite nice to come back here and see a decade on what it's like here and what it was with the scenery, because the night that it was really spectacular, seeing all the fireworks lit up and stuff. So yeah, lots of good memories in this section, and glad to come back here. I will see you all on another one of my videos in the future. Take care everyone, bye!
Take a gander through Granda's socials as well, clicking that subscribe button on his YouTube channel. I also have merch on a website called Redbubble. You can check out by my username Granda94, where it sells all different things such as clothes, headwear, magnets, and alongside of other variety of cool stuff. Always appreciative of all support. Have fun looking through other content of mine, and catch you on the next video. Bye everyone!